It's media day for the Florida Panthers, and a lot was just revealed by GM Bill Zito and head coach Paul Maurice on another player who could be out for months. We're going to talk about who he is and who's going to replace him in the roster in just a minute. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Panthers Digest. I'm your host, Greg Andrews. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. You guys need to stay up to date with anything and everything that has to do with your back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. So yeah, media day, exciting day. I'll probably be posting another video a little bit later this afternoon once some of the juicy quotes and things start to come out, because I'm sure we're going to hear something about maybe Evan Rodriguez and the trade rumors and all that, which we'll talk about later this afternoon, and a few other key things that will be happening. But the big news that is out right now is kind of twofold. We have to discuss Matthew Tkachuk and what was said about his return date, and another key player who just got injured this offseason and ended up having knee surgery. We're going to get into that right now, guys. So, again, thank you guys so much for joining me. This is where we currently sit. Right now, Bill Zito says Tom Nosek had knee surgery after an offseason injury. Luke Kunin probably would fill that role on that fourth line. I mean, as I had it already and as I've looked it up, a lot of the analysts, a lot of people who follow the Florida Panthers already had Kunin on that fourth line on the right side, and Nosek was actually going to be the center, and on the left side, it was going to be, here, I'll actually just show you. Give me just 1 second. Right there. So we already have Bovequist was going to be on the left side, Nosek in the middle, and Luke Kunin on the right. So bad news, he's going to be out for what could be months. You can see right here. And they also were saying that Matthew Tkachuk looks like he could be out until now December, but he says, don't hold me to that. That's Bill Zito. And Paul Maurice on the radio this morning, I actually heard him on 560 WQAM. He thinks that Tkachuk will be out probably until mid-season. So the good news, bad news scenario for the Florida Panthers is this. With Matthew Tkachuk possibly seeing a return date in December, maybe he gets a little, slow him back into the action. They can't put their foot on the gas with this kind of an injury because, well, that muscle is a major mover, and I've already said this in previous episodes. It is not an easy surgery to come back from because the abdominal area, the sports hernia, which it's not an actual hernia. It's called an athletic pubalgia, I believe is what it is, or something along those lines. That's the accurate terminology, where it's the area of the pelvic region where all of the abdominal muscles and the lower extremities come in and connect. And he injured that first, didn't tear that adductor off the bone initially, but he played through it. And after just all the wear and tear, it finally separated from the bone and got pretty ugly there. So I think it's an athletic pubalgia. That's what it's called. Not a sports hernia. I mean, they're synonymous, but sports hernia is a misnomer. It's not the right terminology because it's not a tear in the abdominal lining. It actually has to do with the groin. So anyways, out until December. The timeline is usually 4 to 6 month recovery period. That's good. That means I would say the progress on Tkachuk is probably better than what they were thinking. I mean, he's, from what I think is, he probably had surgery in early August, even though when he was asked in early August, he was still contemplating surgery. I would think he's probably somewhere between 3 to 4 weeks removed. Probably mid to late August is when he had the surgery. I can't remember when the news actually broke that he did, but I would assume they kept it pretty hush-hush. But soon after he said that, he probably made the decision within that week after that he was going to have surgery. So somewhere between probably 3-4 weeks removed from surgery as we're sitting here today. So a little bit optimistic about a December return. Not bad. Get him a little playing time. Get in the Olympics. Play there as well. And then hopefully when he gets back here to play in the NHL with the Panthers, he'll be ready to rock and roll. But Tomas Nosek. So Tomas Nosek. Excuse me. Keep saying his name wrong. My goodness, I shouldn't be doing that. I know how to say his name. So we got to see what happens there. Is it a huge loss? Not necessarily, but Tomas Nosek has been a pretty solid player on that fourth line. He's held his own. He's put up decent numbers, but this is the guy who's going to replace him. Luke Kunin. These are his stats right now. Not a whole lot to speak of last season with the Columbus Blue Jackets. He split time between the Sharks and the Blue Jackets. I brought him in before when I broke the news that the Cats did sign him to a deal. So he did end up playing in 75 games last season, where his numbers outstanding, not by any means. 11 goals, 7 assists. Unfortunately, he was minus 28 for the season, but whatever. It's filling the void. The good thing with this team is they are so deep. And Bill Zito just has such a knack for finding guys that are undervalued and underplayed on specific teams. And this is something that Paul Maurice said on the 560 WQAM this morning. He said, that's the beautiful thing about Bill Zito that he respects. When he was asked, do you and Bill Zito have these conversations where you'll talk to him and say, oh, I found this player, I like him better. And then Bill Zito will say, no, I don't like him, I like this guy better. Their conversations that they have are on a whole different level in terms of the respect that they have for one another. Paul Maurice respects Bill Zito's eye for talent, especially guys that are undervalued on the team that they are currently in, and says, hey, I could bring him here to the Florida Panthers organization because he fits the scheme of what you were trying to do, coach. He's going to be perfect for what we need. And I think that's exactly why he brought in Luke Kunin. I think same thing with Jeff Petrie. They brought him in as well because he knows he will fit the scheme and he will work well on that last pairing for the defense. Luke Kunin will play on this fourth line. I think it'll be a perfect filler for now, but can we see other guys step up? Where will they maybe bring in a Jack Devine? I mean, I've got a list of guys here right now that I'm going to share with you, and we're going to take a look at this. But again, these are the projected lines. You can see the Luke Kunin jersey that's flipped around because we'll see what happens. And how are they going to interchange things for those first two lines? The third line, don't fix what isn't broken. Luostarinen, Lundell, Marchand, they're not going to change anything. That line was just in harmony last postseason, so don't fix what isn't broken there. But for the top two lines, are you going to see Mackie Samoskevich and Rodriguez and Sam Bennett on that same line? Because Verhaeghe played a lot on that line. Will you have Rodriguez maybe on that top line and go back and forth with Verhaeghe? Who knows? Who knows? And right now, power play, again, we're going to see a lot of changing around, I think. Paul Maurice, I think, is going to give these guys a little bit more of the, let's just kind of keep things where they were when Tkachuk was injured with what was working from last season after the Four Nations Cup and ride from there and kind of see what will happen. Because again, things worked when Mackie was there. In the playoffs, not so much. But hey, this is the regular season that we're talking about. So here are some of the other guys that we're looking at. These are the guys on the roster right now. I crossed off the names. They're already currently on lines at this point. So again, I'll go back here really quick for you guys to take a look at. One of the guys we need to take a look into is AJ Greer. Yes, I know he's a left winger, but will we see somebody slide into that right wing position that has a little more experience? I don't know. That's why I'm like the Luke Kunin thing. You also have some of the younger guys that maybe could come up. And I'm going to read those off to you right now. And there's quite a few. Jack Devine, Josh Lopine, or Lopine. Excuse me if I'm not saying his name right. Mackenzie Entwistle, Riley Hughes, Anton Lundmark, Grayson Sawchin, Nolan Foote, Jack Studnicka. These are all guys, or Studnicka. These are all guys who could fill that role of that right wing position. But do the Panthers go in the route of we need a guy who's got more experience, that has games under his belt? And that's where I think Kunin will probably fit the role better than anybody else, but they could probably change it up as the season progresses to see how is he working on that fourth line. Do they need to kind of bring one guy in for a couple of weeks, see how it goes, see if the chemistry is there? Because again, there's a reason why Bill Zito brought in Kunin, is because he sees that there's talent, he fits the scheme, and I don't see why they wouldn't try it right off the bat. So here are the other guys. I just named all of these young guys, 24 years old. A lot of these guys were playing in the prospect tournament this past weekend, and there was a lot of good things. I saw a lot of good things. You could see there. I mean, Studnicka wasn't there. Entwistle wasn't there because they're too old. Nolan Foote wasn't there. He's played too many NHL games. But if you look at Grayson Sawchin, Sandisville Manis, another great name player that I did bring up. He looked fantastic. And Anton Lundmark, Jack Devine, these are all players that could slide in to that position on that right wing if need be. Will they be aggressive and try to give these guys an opportunity right off the bat? We'll see. I think it depends on how the season starts. If they get hot and everything's working, I don't think you see these guys come in that quick. They let them get their AHL time in or ECHL, whatever it might be. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And then here's some of the good stuff that has already come out. Sam Bennett, we have a chance to do something special here for a while. Obviously, he said something very similar at the end of last season after he signed his contract, after Ekblad signed his contract, and after Marchand signed his contract. He said something similar, and he had one of the most memorable quotes during the celebration when he was on stage, and he was giving a quote, they hate us, they think we're dirty, they think we're this, and da-da-da. But I'm not going to say what he said. You guys could probably go and find it online, where he literally cussed out and said, well, we just do what we want. This is who we are. We're not going to change. And then Ekblad, it's extremely exciting. Everyone coming back, including myself, was the goal. I'm happy to be here. So with everything that we're talking about now, I'm excited for this team. I think all of Panthers Nation cannot wait for October 7th when they raise the banner. They're going to play the Blackhawks. It's going to be exciting. And I love how deep this team is. That is something I think a lot of people are really overlooking, to not just the guys who are on the active roster, but look at the guys who are on the inactive roster that are playing in the AHL, the ECHL, these young guys. I was more impressed by the prospects than I thought I would be. I don't think the Charlotte Checkers organization, their hockey club, should be ranked as low as they are heading into this season. I think they deserve a little bit more respect, especially from what I saw in the prospects tournament. But again, that was a very small sample size in terms of games, and that's not going to be the exact team that is going to be on the ice together. It's going to change. And I will be giving you guys some updates on that as the season progresses too, because we're going to have to keep an eye on some of this young talent. You guys have already asked, some of you, when are they going to start looking at young talent? They're always going to be looking. But the bigger question is, what's going to happen to get more draft capital? And that's a conversation for another day when it comes to Evan Rodrigues and possibly another, well, it's not going to be possibly, it's going to have to be another player will have to be traded, or two, to get under that salary cap. We're already $4.5 million over. Evan Rodrigues is $3 million hit. So we got to find two guys that'll add up to $1.5 million, or one player that's somewhere around that $1.5 million mark to get under the salary cap, unfortunately. But we'll talk about that another day, and how draft capital, I'm going to try to put a positive spin on it for you guys, because I do like Evan Rodrigues a lot. I think he's been a very, very important piece for this team in the last couple of years, which is one of the many reasons why this team has won 2 Stanley Cups in a row. And Evan Rodrigues was a big contributor. Was he the end-all say-all and was the reason why we won it? I'm not going to say that, but a major contributor nonetheless. He is part of many reasons why they won back-to-back Stanley Cups. But anyways, guys, that is the news right now. So Thomas Nosek will be out for months. Unfortunately, Kunin should take his place, but we'll see what happens with Paul Maurice once things get started. Remember, preseason's upon us. 4 days away for the first game. I don't know if it'll be televised, but guys, check on the Panthers Twitter, X account, Instagram, things like that. I'm sure they might have a streaming link where you can click on it and be able to watch the preseason games. And I'm going to have some other news that I'm going to share with you in a couple of days. I'm really excited about this, guys, especially for those of you who live in Florida. I'll be breaking some news to you guys about something that I'm going to be a part of that you're not going to want to miss. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. Appreciate all of you. Thank you, guys.